All right, so today I was driving back from the Chandler Mall after going to the Apple Store for what I made a short about earlier. Of course, the guy at the Apple Store had no solutions whatsoever. In fact, I was showing him a picture of what I wanted on my phone screen, and he looked at it and, like, Apple doesn't make that. And I'm like, okay. So it got me thinking about this. You want competence, but you won't pay for it, which is, again, was highlighted this week by one of the sales team. Where did they find these people? Who hires these people? Why are they here? Those were actual questions I heard this week, and I didn't have an answer because just because you're middle aged and you have no work skills whatsoever, it doesn't mean you don't need a job. I had to stop at Walmart on my way home to get something to eat as a snack because I was not feeling like something heavy, but just like a piece of fruit. And as I looked into the eyes of the cashier, you just saw that I'm here, but I'm not here expression on his face. And I know that expression because I had it for years, because I wore that uniform for 2.5 years. You think I cared about doing returns on things like condoms and private objects that go in your body? No, you just look at the customer and you think to yourself, you're really handing me something that you put in your rear end right now and you want a refund. They don't consider you to be human. And that's the problem we have in the workforce. When you hire a waiter or a busboy or a car wash person or someone that cleans up stains at an adult store that we're not going to mention, you have to look at that person and think to yourself, I'm really going to pay this person nothing. And they better be good at it. Because even though you might be 22 years old, you better be the best guy at cleaning up those stains on the floor in that room at an undisclosed location. Remember, names and locations have been changed to protect the guilty. But all of this is based on a true story. So, with that said, I love saying that, by the way. I actually heard someone say it this morning. I think it was Anonymous who said something similar to that in one of their videos today. All right, let's get into this. Ever notice how job listings want you to be Einstein with a paycheck of a busboy? They want you to manage inventory, diffuse customer meltdowns, lift 50 pounds, and smile like it's Disneyland, all for an incredible low wage. It's like capitalism opened a dating profile. Must be loyal, skilled, desperate, and willing to settle. And somehow you're the problem for not applying fast enough to that position. Anytime I have an intro like this, it reminds me of this girl I used to work with at the university about 6, 7 years ago. And she called her job, well, I'm just going to call it a job, working at a pizza joint for kids. I don't even remember what it was called. She called the manager and she said, I quit. And the manager told her, you're not allowed to quit until you have someone to cover your shifts. And she just hung up on him, right? No, he called back and wanted to get into it again. And you're just like, what's wrong with this person? Why doesn't this person just do their job, run their business, and just shut up? But no, when you're dealing with incompetence in the workplace, they don't even understand. Like, they take jobs and then they don't understand what they're doing. So it's gross incompetence. But again, there's only so many people who will work for such a low wage. You don't get to pick the NASA scientist. You get to pick whoever applies. And when you're sitting in job interviews and you're talking about a person who has a CompTIA, right? A certification, a computer certification, the lowest computer certification you can imagine. But I've seen them ask for these certifications, network security, and you look at the pay in the print at the bottom and it says minimum wage. And you're like, really? But then you interview these people. There is no competence whatsoever. But you need competence because you need people to take care of things for you. Because if you hire someone and they can't do the job, then you have to do it for them. And that's the catch-22 of our entire job economy. You want obedience, you want loyalty, you want 10 years of experience in whatever, but you don't want to pay. And then you're extremely disappointed with what you get. So in a sense, every time you hire one of these people, to clean up the floors at the adult store, you're stuck doing it yourself because the pool that you're hiring in, well, that's not the people you want. And again, I'm going to use an analogy for relationships. The relationship that you can get isn't the one that you want, but it's the one that you can touch. I mean, I walked through the Chandler Mall on my way to the Apple store because I always park next to the bookstore and then I walk down across the bookstore just to look at the books and then down the stairs and then go to the um, Apple store or whatever store I'm going to. And you look around and there's so many beautiful people. I mean, literally, if you wanted to create an aquarium with just beautiful people, go to the Chandler Mall. And these are the people that will never have to set foot inside of a Walmart. And remember that video I did a few months ago? When beautiful people start working for the minimum wage, you have a problem in your society that is not going to be pretty. Because the more competent you are, the more money you deserve. But corporations don't see it that way. You're a hole in a heartbeat to them. And that's what sucks because they don't understand how dehumanizing and painful and there's a lack of dignity in 99% of jobs. When you go home at night after working and you think to yourself as you sit down in your piece of crap rundown apartment like I am, you think to yourself, why me? Why did this happen to me? And the fact is that millions of Americans are saying that right now. Why did this have to happen to me? Why am I poor? And you wonder, it's like the simple reason why you're poor is because your parents were poor. They didn't leave you anything. You weren't smart enough to get into an Ivy League school. You weren't smart enough to get out of the way of poverty because you didn't know how. It's like asking someone to do something and then being genuinely disappointed when they don't know how to do it. It's like if I asked you to do a 265-pound bench press right now, could you do it? No. I've seen people lifting the bar at the gym sometimes where they're just starting out. But they don't want to hire that guy who can just lift the bar. They want the guy who looks like he's on steroids because that's the guy that you look at and you see they have experience. That's exactly what you see in workers. You can bring in someone at a really crummy wage, and when they can't lift the bar, you scratch your head and like, is this it? Is this what passes for a competent worker in this present time? Well, I assure you, yes, they're out there by the tens of millions. They still need good jobs. They still need benefits. They still need housing better than this. They still need a pro-mobile that will actually get them to work instead of explode on the highway in a fiery mushroom. But let's get into talking point number one. You want a driven, hardworking team player for the minimum wage. But the only thing that wage drives is my blood pressure up. Don't talk to me about work ethic when your budget screams indentured enthusiasm. You're not hiring a professional. You're buying silence on a clearance rack. Remember that, people. Indentured enthusiasm. Next time someone walks past you and you're wearing a shiny name tag and they ask you why you aren't smiling hard enough, why you look sad at work. Indentured enthusiasm. It's the toxic positivity that our entire system runs on. Somehow, you have to convince yourself that this is temporary, not that it's a punishment. When I worked in retail, every second that I was there felt like a punishment for not being born rich. And every second that you pass a customer and they look down on you, you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Because you have to. You have to have the enthusiasm to show up at Pound Town every morning or take another shift, a 12-hour shift at the Death Star, because you are a lifelong member of Surf City. There's no way out of it. No one's going to see the talent behind that goofy hat and that ridiculous uniform that says something on the back of it that you will never say out loud. When I was working in retail, one of the general managers that I worked for, he would question this every day. Why aren't people happy here? Why are people happy at the bottom? And it's simply put, that system was never designed for happiness. It was designed for cruelty. It was designed for exploitation. And it was designed with no way out. The wage cage is permanent for most of us. I've worked at the bottom my entire adult life. I know that even if I had 10 lifetimes, I will never get out of this. Simply put, I don't have the skills, I don't have the connections, and I don't have the right education. Every time I ask ChatGPT, what's the solution to this? Community, skilling yourself, building a network of people. Well, pros don't have any of those things, and that's why they're pros. And pros, on top of that, they don't like each other. Pros don't like looking at other pros. The last thing you want to do is look at another poor person. Today, while I was at the Apple store and I was talking to a guy that obviously got that job not based on his years of experience, but they needed a warm body to stand there and tell me that there's no solution to my problem because my problem doesn't have a niche market. It's like wanting a car that doubles as a barbecue pit. There's no need for that product. That's the reason Apple never invented it. There's no need to give poor people living wages. It's not necessary. That's why it's never been invented. But when you talk to ordinary people and you ask them, well, what's your long time solution? How do you resolve this? They'll look at you and they'll point at a lottery machine because that's the only thing pros really believe in. The system for pros isn't permanent. They're just waiting to become lottery millionaires. And if I could say this about one person, that'd be neat. But every grocery store you walk into has a lottery machine at the front. And that lottery machine is so valuable to these people to keeping their morale up that they had to stop letting people use credit cards to buy lottery tickets. Because people are running up their credit cards thinking they just one more time and I'll be rich and I won't have to work anymore. Talking point number 2. They ask for 5 years of experience, a bachelor's degree, a passion for customer service, just to restock expired Hot Packets in aisle 4. Hot Pockets. I was like, Hot Packets? No, Hot Pockets. Meanwhile, the CEO's son got promoted after microwaving his tie. It's not a skill gap. It's a nepotism loophole with a LinkedIn account, which is absolutely true, ChatGPT, because world-class customer service doesn't mean anything. When I was working at Insight, you would listen to these people that were human answering machines. And it just like a pinball machine, it says super, good, great, you're doing incredible. And you're just like, okay, I mean, can you turn off the NPC, please? No. You would think that's their personality just at work because of the type of work that they do. They answer the phone all day long with the same expression, and not because they want to, but because you have a script in front of you. And I think most people in America right now, we're talking a staggering amount, they never deviate from the script. Human beings, like cartoon characters, have catchphrases, phrases that they use nonstop. You guys might think, I use the word prole too often. Prole car, prole housing, prole job. But it's better than saying loser. And being a loser is the hardest part of recognizing that there's no undo button to the loser title. You can't just say, you know what, today, I'm not going to embrace being a loser. Just because I'm alone, I'm broke, I'm angry, I have nothing to do, that still doesn't make me a loser. But you're wrong. Go look in the mirror and look at your dumb face. You're a loser. And you never chose to be here in this form. It was tossed on you by parents who didn't think twice about creating something that they didn't care about. Or as someone in the comments, I think Crickety Crickets said a few weeks ago, parenting doesn't stop when your child is 18. And in present day society, your 35, 40-year-old or 45-year-old child may live with you for the rest of your life. because they can't afford housing. And I was thinking about this earlier when I saw some sort of ad for affordable housing. Do you really want to live with people around you that have to live in affordable housing? That's what it comes down to. Is proles don't like proles. And when you build affordable housing, you put affordable housing people next to people that don't want to live there. Just like this apartment complex. Nobody wants to live here, but it's what you can afford. No one talks to each other, or at least not until a few nights ago. No one wants to know each other. I couldn't tell you what any person that lives around me looks like. If you had them all in a lineup, I wouldn't know. Because the last time I talked to any of them, I was 3 sheets to the wind and barely able to hold myself up. But you don't interact with people. Why? Because it's depressing. And you're already depressed from your ordinary life. Anyone who claims that they're not depressed right now is too stupid to understand what depression is. Or there's so much toxic positivity going on in their head that they haven't come to the realization that they're screwed. Talking point number 3. The company calls you family until you ask for a raise. Then suddenly, you're not the right fit anymore. They'll throw you a pizza party instead of healthcare and act like that's generosity, not gaslighting. Your work isn't measured in hours, it's measured in how little they can pay you for before you break. And this is something I've noticed about McDonald's, is that people break. You get to a point and you break. And the mechanism doesn't care that you broke, that you got left behind. I can list half a dozen people that I used to know. Do I remember their faces? No. But they broke. The money wasn't enough. The environment was toxic. And they kept pushing themselves, and pushing themselves to go to a place that they couldn't stand anymore for an unlivable wage. And eventually, they broke. You can see the building blocks where the system is designed to break people. Where you finally wake up that morning, 8 a.m. Monday, and you say no. It's not that you don't need the money. It's that you're completely broken down. In fact, I had this conversation this week with someone. I needed help with something that I wasn't capable of dealing. I called a number and they told me, not today, MillennialSteam. And I said, I completely understand, and I hung up the phone. That happens. I've had that happen with other people. Other people that might have been taking certain, let's call it, non-prescribed medications while on the clock. You get on the phone with them and you're like, what's going on? And you're like, oh, oh, you're just like, oh, yeah, okay, you know what? I'll call you later when you come down from whatever you're doing. So that conversation has been had many a times throughout my entire career. I mean, I've walked out from a Kroger's to sit down outside for a 15-minute break and had a coworker come right up to me and hand me the peace pipe like it was perfectly normal to watch people coming into the store while blitzed out of your mind. Hey, if Walmart, if alcohol stopped being provided to all the workers at Walmart, you wouldn't have workers anymore. It was incredibly common to have people completely intoxicated at work or go home at lunch and have a few of the good stuff. Anyhow, let's get to the conclusion of this video because I got to go upload it across the street. So yeah, they want NASA level competence at fast food wages, and when nobody applies, they blame lazy workers instead of cheap bosses. But here's the truth. You're not unqualified, you're just unwilling to be exploited for pennies. You can't fix the system with a better resume. It's running exactly how it was designed, to keep you tired, talented, and too broke to complain about anything. What does Jeff Bezos keep saying? I don't want anyone here past 6 months, because that's when people start wanting stuff. They start wanting living wages. They want a more comfortable work environment. They want stuff. So as long as you keep all your workers in constant turmoil, high turnover is great for Pound Town. No one ever gets comfortable. Every week you're going to get a different colored fleece. He's still there to do the same job, but today he's, who knows? Maybe he's rainbow colored. Maybe he embraces every single skin tone in the world. But he's there to do one job. And it's always going to be the hard way. And you better prepare because it's 60 years of it and then they put you in the ground. That's called retirement.